Today, I interview Roger Wakefield, plumber entrepreneur turned content creator. He teaches and covers everything plumbing, which you might think is too niche to get a ton of views, but you'd be wrong to think that. In just the last 6 months, he's been able to get millions of views and 10 million plus views in just the last 2 months. He'll be sharing how he did it and his tips for you to get more views on your channel. All that and more coming up on the VI Show right now.
This video is brought to you by vidIQ, the #1 Chrome extension for YouTubers looking for on-point data analysis, research resources, and enhanced video creator tools. Start getting more views in less time today by signing up for free at vidiq.com/influence. That's vidiq.com/influence.
What's up, influencers? My name is Benji Travis, and that's right, this is Video Influencers. We're helping build your influence, impact, or income and impact with online videos. My name is Benji. Sean and I started this channel to help you crush it with YouTube, and we're also the co-authors of YouTube Secrets. So make sure you guys get a copy. We have a link down below. But I'm way more excited to talk about getting views and interviewing an amazing, successful content creator and entrepreneur, Roger Wakefield. So without further ado, Roger, welcome to the show.
Benji, thank you so much. And I love your intro because your book, yours and Sean's book, I want you to know that that is always my go back to. And the neat thing about it, I have read your book a couple of times and listened to it about 3 times. I either drive to Austin, San Antonio, or Houston quite often, or I used to before everything got locked down.
Yeah.
And that's look, I can plug this in the Jeep.
Yeah.
And hook it up Bluetooth and take off. But every time I hear it, I'm like, oh my God, wait, they've never said that before. And I'm like taking a new note. This is something I've got to work on. So man, I love it. And I love having it to go back to.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And you've told me that multiple times. Obviously, last year when we last connected physically at another event in Texas, well, obviously that's not happening. So I'm glad to connect with you and ask you so many questions. But one of the reasons I appreciate you bringing that up is you're the exact type of person we wrote this book for. So not only when you acknowledge that it's helped you in your journey, but to see you have this major success on your YouTube channel makes me so happy, because ultimately that was the goal. Like, of course, we want to sell books, but what we really want to do more than that is to actually help people succeed on YouTube. And you've had some crazy success. Let's actually pull up your channel right here. Just in the last few months, you've had some major hit videos. And again, everyone, this is a plumbing channel we're looking at, okay? It's a very niche topic, and you've got all kinds of different videos, and I love your reaction videos. So tell us, Roger, what has been going on, and what is your perspective on the success you're having, and what do you think led to it? I would love to know. I'm sure everybody else would love to know as well.
Well, let me turn that around. Here's what led to it. Consistently doing things right.
Yes.
And I think that everybody who does that, it eventually pays off. What has happened lately, man, the way I tell it is YouTube fell in love with me. And it's funny because we got so many recommendations. And, in the beginning, I tell people, look, any channel you build, you better build it for search, because nobody knows who you are. But once YouTube can figure out who you are and what your channel's about, and they can recommend you to people, at some point, they're going to recommend you, and your numbers are going to do good. Your CTR is going to do good. Your average view duration is going to do good. They're going to keep recommending you. And I've seen some channels in my industry spike for like a day. And it's like, man, that was great. They got a lot of views. Mine spiked and stayed there for like 5 or 6 days. And it was just crazy, but it's helped us out a lot, and we really do love it.
For sure. And, let's actually bring this back to even before this year. You've been a plumber for a very long time, and if people don't know you, tell us a little bit about what you were doing before YouTube, and why and how you stumbled onto this platform, and why you started your channel.
I started plumbing while I was still in high school, and I was managing a restaurant one night. I had one of my best friends working with me. It was slow. It was in the middle of the week. It was a burger joint, and we're standing there talking. And he looks at me. He says, "So, are you going to do this forever?" I don't remember if I had just quit school or was just fixing to, but I hated school. I went to school for girls and sports. So we were talking, and he said, "Look, are you going to do this forever?" I said, "Man, I'm 16 years old. I'm managing a restaurant. I've got it made." And he says, "So what happens if you get fired or you quit? Who's going to hire a 16-year-old to manage a restaurant?" And I just literally thought, wow. Well, it wasn't much longer that I either fired or quit. Probably got fired. But what happened was I called one of his brothers and says, "Hey, I want to get into plumbing." And I started it. I liked it. That summer, after the summer was over, I decided I need to go back to high school and graduate, because in Texas, you have to have your license or your graduation to get your plumbing license. So I did. And don't get me wrong, over the last 40 years, I've done plumbing. I've got out of it a couple of times. I became a a cosmetologist. I became a massage therapist that worked for a chiropractor. I've done a lot of different things, but I always end up back in plumbing because I love it. Well, then 5 years ago, I started my own business. And one of the biggest problems small business owners have is making the phone ring.
Yeah.
And marketing companies will tell you anything they can to get you to give them more money, but they really don't do anything else for you, at least most of them. Now I found one that does, and it's great. So I wanted to learn social media. And it's funny, Benji, because I could go talk to marketing companies here, and they didn't know much more than I did about social media. And you could tell by talking to them. So I talked to Julie, my boss, my wife, told her that I wanted to go learn social media at a social media conference. So I got online, I studied them. I ended up in San Diego the end of February, beginning of March 2018. I was walking down the hallway, headed to a session about Facebook, because I literally thought that was social media.
Yeah.
And I passed a sign that talked about the class, and it said, "Get in front of your customers using video." And the thought that went through my mind is, wow, we could make videos about plumbing. I never thought it would be me in front of the camera, but I went in, I sat down on the front row, and a gentleman named Daryl Eves gets up to talk. And one of the first things he says is, "YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world." And I heard that and I thought, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. YouTube is just where I store my videos. And I did. I shut my notebook and I turn around to get up, and the room is packed. Standing room only. So I'm not going to get up and walk out. You've seen me at conferences. I sat on the front row. I open my book back up and I'm sitting here listening. By the time he's done, I've got 3 pages of notes. I've also gone through my book and changed every session I was going to go to, because now I want to learn about YouTube and video. And that's what changed for me. And it's drastically changed my business by making my phone ring.
Boom. And of course, we all love and admire and respect Daryl Eves. So it's so interesting to hear your perspective, initially kind of doubting that he knows what he's talking about, but obviously he does. And you took great advice. And so tell us what happened from there on out. Because what's interesting about, and let's just pull up your channel again here. I actually pull up some of your old videos, and this is how you got your start, but obviously much different than what you're doing today. In fact, let's just pull up one of these videos. Here's a video on your channel. Look, obviously promoting your plumbing. This is another interesting thing too, is because your videos are nothing like this, and they don't even start out like that. You don't promote your business. So tell us what it was like. Was there any growing pains? I'm sure there was. And I'm just looking at this video. I'm wondering what is going on here, because you're obviously talking to somebody. It's just one angle, but definitely not as dynamic or engaging to the viewer as the kind of videos you see on your channel now.
This was very unique. And that conference that I'm talking about, literally, I had to leave early on Friday because I had a radio show here in Dallas on Saturday morning. And that was the radio show.
Yeah.
And we weren't even videoing it at the time because I wasn't doing any video. But once I learned about YouTube and what we should be doing, and it's funny because that radio show I actually did either that Saturday or a month later, because I was on once a month. And I literally came walking out of the studio, and the next person walking in, they're bringing in cameras and lights and things. And I'm like, wow. And I walked into my producer's office. I said, man, what are they doing? He said, well, they video this and they put this on social media. And I mean, it was like a bell went off. I was like, oh my gosh. So the next month when I came in, I had a videographer with me, not anybody I've got now. And it was okay. Like you said, one view, set up one camera, there it is, and that's it. Then we started carrying in 3 or 4 cameras. We started getting better when we started doing it ourselves. But the neat thing about it is I looked at what I was spending on the radio show, and Benji, I could buy equipment. I could pretty much build a studio. I could do a lot of things with that money that literally I had control of. Not a little AM radio station once a month. I could do YouTube and put more stuff on it. And man, I learned so much, and it was great.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, you've been very consistent with your content. You've been putting up videos for a couple of years. But one thing that I know is you're on the show today because you've had massive amounts of views in the last 6 months, but you were already succeeding putting up content on YouTube and driving business to your business, right? Driving traffic to your phone numbers and getting those phones a ring. Tell us, what has been the benefit of YouTube to your business as an entrepreneur outside of just the general views you've been getting lately?
One of the neatest things, and it happened a couple of months ago, I was walking out of the office, and Amber, my office manager, literally she looks at me as I'm fixing to walk out the door, and she says, we got 3 slab leak jobs off YouTube. And I looked at her, I said, you mean we got 3 sewer water tests? She says, no. We did the test last week. All 3 of them confirmed today that we're doing the repairs. Slab leak jobs can be anywhere from $5,000 to $100,000. We tunnel up under houses. We make plumbing repairs. There's a lot to it. But I mean, 3 jobs like that off YouTube in one week, more or less one day. I mean, those kind of numbers can completely change the revenue of a business. And when I was at the social media conference, literally we were paying Google, I think, $2,000 or $3,000 a month. Needless to say, I'm not paying Google anymore. Google's paying me to do YouTube videos. Completely different turnaround.
Yeah, and one of the things I love about your story is I was one of those entrepreneurs that benefited from YouTube in terms of promoting my business. So making money off of the platform, obviously making AdSense revenue from the commercials showing on video, great. Getting sponsored by brands, amazing. It's been a huge part of my business. But so much opportunity off platform. And you're the perfect example of an entrepreneur who was new to this platform that put up videos onto YouTube and kind of reverse engineered it. So you're putting out content to add value to somebody's life. In the beginning, it was more about tutorials, information. And then obviously now it's more about the entertainment factor for people interested in what you have to say about plumbing topics. So to convert those views into customers is what it's all about. In fact, I would argue, Sean and I feel like YouTube Secrets is more for that type of person than it is for somebody that wants what we call to be a unicorn, right? Mega famous. But let's not discount that you're getting pretty famous yourself. So let's pull up Roger's channel now. And so what's interesting, I showed your old videos. These are your top videos. 2 million views, 1 million views. Oh, again, another couple that are going to probably hit 1 million views. Obviously, these are a little bit different. You do have a DIY toilet repair video, which is what you were kind of known for, but you did something different. You did these, plumber reacts videos, and they've been a huge hit. But I know it's not just the reacting to the videos. Tell us about what has been going on in the last 6 months. Why have you gone viral? And what are the things that worked for you in terms of, positioning your videos to be able to get views during 2020?
We really started looking at, we learned to read our analytics. We learned to look at our numbers. We learned a lot of different things to help us grow. And everybody can say, well, look at your analytics and know what your numbers are doing. But the thing is, you've got to learn to react to what those analytics are telling you. And the biggest thing for me is when I walked out of that conference, we started putting up our first videos a month later. So literally, this is 2018. I'm just learning YouTube in a conference. A month later, I'm posting 3 videos a week. I didn't wait for everything to be perfect. You know, you looked at some of my earlier videos. They were plain Jane, shooting with iPads, shooting with iPhones, whatever it is. But we decided, look, we're going to start. If you wait for things to be perfect, you're never going to get started. And the big thing for me is, and the content, the value, what are you bringing? And that's something that I got out of y'all's book. If you're bringing great content, you create evergreen content. Look, that how to repair a running toilet or how to stop a running toilet guaranteed. Look at the thumbnail, look at the video. Will and I both, and Will was my videographer at the time. Now he's my content manager. If you look at that video, there's nothing special about it. And we actually looked at each other the day it went up and said, man, look, this one wasn't great. We have to do better, but let's focus on doing videos like this. And it wasn't 2 or 3 months later or 6 months later. It's like, all of a sudden, it's like that video went just like this. Then all of a sudden it really started turning up and it's like, okay, this is crazy, but it's a good thing. It works.
Yeah. And so is this the video you're talking about, the how to fix a running toilet guaranteed?
You bet. We literally, Benji, we put a black curtain up here at the end of the hallway. I've got this toilet mounted on a stand. That toilet there is actually the tank up here that I don't think y'all can see right now, but it's got the back end cut out of it. So, and we try to do things different than anybody else.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say about that video, who would have ever thought that toilet would get so much attention? I mean, literally, it's the star of the show. But actually, let's cut away back to it because I like diving into this because I never would have thought to present a toilet this way, even as a plumber. Like, I like how you elevated it and you took out the back. Again, you're like breaking everything down so the everyday person can kind of understand how to repair their toilet and not. So you're doing opposite. So this is another thing too. And so let's cut back. You're doing opposite of what you kind of want for your business. You're teaching people how to do something so they don't have to call you. That's so backwards to a lot of entrepreneurs. When I first got into this as a real estate agent and I was putting out videos on, basically I would teach people how to sell their house without an agent, right? For sale by owner. And a lot of people are like, why would you want to do that? Don't you want them to call you? Well, the whole point of the business model for YouTube is to add value first. Would you say that's correct? And that's why I'm sure that video has led to a lot of phone calls. And tell us about that and why that does work.
And I like the way you put it because it does just add value. And even in the beginning, and maybe some of the radio shows, we'd put up a deal, hey, if you need a plumber, call us. But I never, even through that entire video, I never say, hey, look, if you can't fix this, call me. That's not what it's about.
Yeah.
It's about building brand awareness and becoming the trusted advisor. And we currently, right now, I get calls from across the United States every week saying, hey, I've got a plumbing problem. I need to talk to Roger. And it's kind of great that I have good gatekeepers and I don't have to talk to every single person that calls. I thank God, because I don't have time. But the funny thing about it is cutting out the back of that toilet is just something that I'm looking at when I thought, if people could see it from here. And I thought, you know what, I can make that happen. And I literally cut it open. I've got so many different things I'm working on because I'm constantly looking at what can I do better? Yeah. Because when I first started, I knew if I don't have to be perfect to start, but if I can get 1% better every single video we make, what are we going to end up at? And if I do that, what's it going to do for the channel? So we still today look at what can we do better? And we're looking at different cameras for different things, different equipment. I mean, literally that toilet, I went out back and grabbed some tools and I thought, man, I'm going to see if I can cut the back out of this and keep it together in one piece. And I did, and it worked great. And I was like, okay, this is cool. Man, it's a completely different view for people.
Yeah, and one thing I want to add before we move on to your tips on how to get views for whether you're an entrepreneur or just a general content creator is this playlist. Let's pull this up. So, if any entrepreneurs are wondering what kind of content should I put out for my potential clients or customers, I would say put together a frequently asked questions list and make videos on each one of those questions. So, these are a lot of those kind of things, right? Ever wonder how PVC pipes break under your slab? Like, I'm sure that's a question you got a ton, right, Roger? And so, literally, video after video after video after video. Now, when you first start, unfortunately, it's not like you're going to get millions of views. It's slow going. But when you own a business and you've got opportunities to make money through big contracts, like you mentioned, anywhere from 10,000 for a job up to 100,000, you don't need a million views. You just need the right views from the right people. And even though I love that you're not promoting your business as heavily anymore, you still want to do call to actions, right? Like, hey, if you guys have any plumbing issue, make sure you check out my website or call me at this number. Still smart to do, but after delivering the value. Anything you want to add to that before we get into the tips on getting views?
One thing that I got out of y'all's book is the content. Create everlasting content, evergreen content. And I mentioned it a while ago about that toilet. Toilets were built like that 20 years ago. They're going to be built like that 20 years from now.
Yeah.
People are going to need to know how to fix them. And as long as we keep putting out videos, YouTube's going to keep saying, hey, they're still relevant. Keep bringing it up, keep putting it in front of people. And with the things that we're doing, it makes it all happen good. So it does work.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely is working really well for you. But of course, you're on this show not only because of your success as an entrepreneur in your business, but obviously your views. So let's dive into that. So if we pull up Social Blade, I'm actually going to your stats right now. Look at this rise. So obviously, this is the 2 years basically of views. And it's going along. You've gotten to about 2 million views, and then boom, out of nowhere, you have this huge jump. And I'm sure everybody's wondering what is going on here and why did you sustain this rise? It's one thing to have a big jump, but sometimes it kind of tapers off, but you've been rising, rising, and rising. So let's jump into that. I know you mentioned some analytics and paying attention to, what is doing well and adjusting or maybe, like doubling down. What are some other things that have worked really well for you that also people watching here can apply to their channels to get the similar opportunities or at least just get more views?
The biggest thing for me, and this is one thing that I heard at that first conference, and I think even the next one that I went to out in LA, a lot of people said, look, you cannot really use YouTube to grow a small local business. And it makes sense. I mean, YouTube's worldwide. For us, it's nationwide. But I mean, YouTube is everywhere there is. And it's like the marketing companies that come in and try and sell me radio ads. I'm in Northeast Dallas and just outside of Dallas, northeast of it. But when I buy a radio ad, it goes all the way to West Fort Worth, to East Dallas, to South Dallas. I cover about 2% of the entire area they do. But on YouTube, what I learned is, and I call it social local growth. How do I use social media to grow locally? And I've done the TubeBuddy, going through, looking at the reports and seeing where we're doing well, where we're not. But, using city names and titles with the keywords that we want to be found for and the things that the video's about, that has helped me so much. And I mean, think about it. If you call a marketing company, you don't want to just own the word real estate. If you're in Seattle, you want to own Seattle real estate, Seattle, new homes, Seattle, whatever it is, homes for sale, Seattle. We learned to do that with YouTube a certain way. And it wasn't just our title. It wasn't just the keywords. It wasn't just tags. It wasn't just description. It's a little bit of both and doing it different ways. And that probably is what led to our growth the fastest for our business. But the other big thing was knowing what keywords we eventually wanted to be found for. The cool thing is, and I did this just the other day, I was speaking at a seminar. It was online. And I told the people, I said, look, what I want everybody to do right now is pick up your phone, go to YouTube, go to the search at top, and just put in plumbing. Don't put in my name. Don't put in the name of my company. Don't put in anything like that. Just put in plumbing. And I mean, literally, I'm watching him because it was like a Zoom meeting. I had probably 20 faces in front of me, and everybody is literally looking up like, wow. And
You're
I
number
don't
one,
know.
by the way. I
Yeah,
typed in
yeah.
plumbing, and you're number one.
And I'm assuming you've never searched for my name or you've never
No.
searched for plumbing, but now, and they, Benji, go right back to that. If you'll scroll down,
Oh yeah.
I've normally got 6 to 12 of the top 20 videos.
Well, yeah, right here, 3, 4, 5. You got some other plumb a bathroom, which, by the way, is just like somebody's like graphic kind of video, and then you show up. I mean, you're definitely killing it when it comes to the plumbing niche.
So here's what I ask people when I talk about YouTube. You're in real estate. What if somebody searched real estate and you came up like that?
Powerful.
Plumbing is the same kind of word. And that's why we get calls from around the country. Now, think about this. We used to have the banner up here before we got a sponsorship that had our website on it, and our website's down in the description so people can still find it. But that's going to help build our domain authority. And by building our domain authority, now we're helping build our company through social local growth. And it's huge for us. I mean, this has completely changed our business, changed our lives, changed the way we do everything we do.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying here, because a lot of people might not be following, or it might not be directly correlated to views. But to get a lot of views, first you have to focus on like smaller niche, and your smaller niche was your local community. Doing obviously DIY plumbing videos, talking about everything plumbing, but trying to really focus in on a local community, because one thing you realize when you help somebody in their life, and it's for free, they almost feel like they owe you something, right? And initially, you help people to fix their toilets. Obviously, people might know that you're local, whether they look at your website or you mention it. But then that value add will bring them back to your channel, right? And those are those engaged followers that will like your videos, that will comment, and they build the foundation for you to be able to do the more viral type of videos. Anything you want to add to that? And then let's move on to like, how did you get these viral hits? Like, what was it that sparked that thought? Because I wouldn't have thought, hey, yeah, Roger, you should, like when I met you a couple of years ago, I wouldn't be like, yeah, start doing reaction videos to people's plumbing problems, right? Like I that's like genius, but not obvious.
And it's not. And the thing is, I think we've learned to do it very well. And, there are some YouTubers that are doing it and doing it different ways. We looked at it and thought, how can we take current pop culture? How can we take current popular videos that other people are doing and react to them or do different things? One of the first reaction videos we did was, I think it was the movie Dumb and Dumber, where the guy literally, he stops up the toilet and he's trying to pour it out the window, and it's like, okay, this was kind of fun. And we start looking at, okay, what all can we do? What can we do to be different? And again, and I don't want to just push y'all's book, but I do. I use it as a reference. Consistency. Can we consistently come back and look at this, look at what we're doing, and do it again? And if we can do that, I mean, it's like a viral video. People say, well, you can't copy a viral video. You can't repeat it. You can if you tell the story. If you put it together right, it's a formula. Repeat that formula again, come in and do it, and get better at it every time you do it. And it's going to keep paying off.
Yeah. When you first put out your reaction videos, were they immediately a success, or did it take a while?
Some of them took a little while. Immediately they were more successful than a lot of videos we were doing. Immediately they were more successful than, how to unstop a drain. Okay, people are like, yeah, look, we've seen those before. But when you see a plumber saying, hey, plumber reacts to, TV plumbing mistakes, people are like, okay, wait, I want to see what he's talking about. And then I go back to things that we've learned from different content creators. Anytime you create a thumbnail, create it so well that anybody scrolling by, whether they're looking for that video or not, create a thumbnail that they will want to stop on.
Yeah.
And we work on that. We are very precise about what we want in our thumbnails and how we want it and the way they're done. And we've learned this from, man, some of the best YouTube coaches out there. And then we change it and modify it and tweak it to fit us and what we want to do.
Oh, for sure. And one of the things we're actually showing your channel right now, your thumbnails are on point. Again, you take something that is, not really top of mind as entertaining or something that would bring attention, but like this one, multiple breaks, right? 65,000 views. I mean, that is just so compelling because I'm sure anybody that's been under their house, that's a homeowner, has seen that and does not want multiple breaks, right? Ever wonder how PVC pipes break under your slab? And one thing you mentioned before this interview is that that's an issue where you live, right? So thinking about that visual that will relate to the viewer, me being a homeowner, I don't have a slab at my house. We have a crawl space, right? But if I did own a slab and I saw that image and that was something I was afraid of or somebody told me, I would totally click on that video. Tell me how much of your thumbnail creation is tactical, strategic in terms of the optimization and the research versus psychological versus like what is going to really trigger this person to be fearful and want to avoid a mistake or avoid a break and click on it versus the one that's a little bit more data based using tools like TubeBuddy or for us like vidIQ.
The neat thing is, and look, I use vidIQ. My first coach was Jeremy Vest.
Oh, okay.
So you bet. And the neat thing about it is you've got to look at it tactical and psychological. You want to create that video that people feel something when they look at, whether you're wanting them to feel fear, whether you're wanting them to feel excitement, whether you're wanting them to feel happy. And I mean, go back to, Google now. Google can look at a picture and tell you, is this person smiling? What brand swimsuit is this person wearing? All kinds of different things. You want to create a video that tells a story or a thumbnail that tells a story. Your thumbnail should tell a story about what your video is about. And if you scroll down and you look and you see this, fearful look on the face of a plumber and he's looking at pipe that's busted, or, you see a plumber pointing at a screen at the camera like this, it's like, okay, what does he want? Well, he wants you. He wants plumbers. And we're trying to make people see what the video's about without ever having to read the description, without ever having to even read the title. And then if you tie it with a title that works, a title that makes them think, man, I have to click on this, it's amazing the way it all ties together.
Yeah, and so I love like everything you're saying. Look at your analytics, right? When you're first starting, start small, start local, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you don't cover the whole nation or world, right? You have to be more practical so that you can drive traffic to your business where you serve people. And then you go into the more best practices, titles, thumbnails, think about the psychology. What are some other tips that you might have for viewers watching who are, maybe an entrepreneur starting a channel that's serving a local area? They just want to get more traffic. What are some other things that have worked for you? And especially some of these viral hits that you've got on your channel recently.
You've already pointed some of it out. And you and I have talked about this before. You ask, they answer. You could literally go ask the girl at your front desk, say, hey, what kind of questions do people call here and ask every day? And if you are that person, and I really don't care what industry you're in, I'm a plumber, okay? Nobody would ever think a plumbing channel could do the kind of number, 10 million views in the last 2.5 months. People would tell you, yeah, that's never going to happen. But here's the deal. Anybody asking these questions the right way, creating a thumbnail that is engaging or enticing, but then when people click on that video, they get value. You didn't just answer that question, you went beyond. You gave them details as to why. or you told them a story. Okay, you asked about what is the best house to buy for a startup family. Oh my God, look, let me tell you about the startup family that bought a house here in Plano, Texas. And man, they moved in and everything was great. But then they had a problem because they did not do a sewer water test and they had slab problems. Then they had to spend another $80,000 fixing it. So let me tell you what, this is why we recommend this. If you're a new family buying a house, spend that little bit extra and do this. Now, when you tie a story to it, people feel that. And when they can see it and they think, you know, look, I don't want to buy a house and then have to spend more money to fix it. Learn to tell stories about what you do. Don't just answer their questions. Answer their question, give them the practical how and why, and then tell them a story about what you know about it. Something that happened, something that could happen, and man, they're yours forever.
For sure. And you know what I say about storytelling, if you just teach somebody, that's information. If you share a story, that's interesting. And what makes you interesting is going to make you remembered by these people, or initially get you a subscriber, right? How many channels have you watched, Roger, where you got an answer to a question, but you never actually subscribe to their channel? Versus the person that really you feel connected with because they told a story, or they're more personal, or they're giving you a little bit more context, right? Like you said, go above and beyond. I'm sure there's plenty of channels that you've just completely overlooked just because it's a one time you needed this one thing, versus when you really connect with something. I see this in my world, the cooking world, with food. I know that there's a lot of channels I use as a utility to learn how to do different things. And then there's channels I connect with as a fan because they're people I'd want to be friends with. How important is that too, to be natural on camera? And what are some of your tips? Especially, there's a lot of plumbers out there. They don't have to deal with being in front of a camera or having a production team or anybody recording them. What are your tips and advice for people to be more personal on camera when you didn't have any experience? I'm sure you can relate to this because we saw some of your early videos, right? You're not even talking to the camera.
The neat thing is, and the things that I learned and I started doing in the very beginning, and I don't even remember where I learned it, who it was that I listened to or that taught me. But the cool thing is, when I'm talking to the camera, I'm looking directly at it. I'm looking the viewer right in the eye. And I'm saying the words you. All you have to do is do this and do it this way, and you won't have any problems. The thing that helped me a lot is in the very beginning, I always pretended that camera was a friend of mine. It was somebody that was having a problem. And I mean, literally, I pictured this person in my mind. And I would look at it and be like, okay, look, here's all you got to do. It's not hard to do. Take that wrench and do this. And when you turn it, here's what's going to happen. Now, you may need to reach on the inside and do this. But I mean, literally, I told it to him just like I was talking to my best friend.
Yeah.
And the reason I say it that way is you want that viewer to be your best friend. Because if they are, they're going to subscribe. They're going to ring the bell. They're going to come back and listen to you again. And to me, that is one of the most amazing things. We have an opportunity with what we do to get invited into people's houses, into people's cars, to go on motorcycle rides, bicycle rides, hikes in a trail, to the gym, because they can stick us in their ear,
Yeah.
spend their day listening to us, and we build that relationship. And the funny thing is, when you say you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, they believe it. And I think about it because when I'm in a conference and people say, hey, y'all can do this, I'm like, yeah, you don't know me. I know nothing about social media. And that's my thought. You just gave me a way out. You gave me an exit because you're talking to everybody, and man, I'm not them. And if you focus on that, you want to talk to your best friend because you do. You want that viewer to become one of your best friends.
I appreciate that you brought up listening to speakers. I've been one of those speakers that that you've listened to, right? And
Absolutely.
obviously, we don't have to name any names. There's some amazing speakers, and then there's those forgettable speakers. Whether I was one of the two, it doesn't matter. But my point is, now that you've seen this recent success on YouTube, in addition to the success you're having in your business, And thinking back to all these different events where you heard different speakers, people like myself, Sean Cannell, Daryl Eves, right? I'm sure you've heard people like Nick Nimmons. What are the biggest like factors in your success that came from speakers that you can remember, even if you don't remember the specific people, that actually worked for an entrepreneur, for somebody that owns a business, that you want the viewers to hear, that led you to have not only this recent success of these viral videos, but just general views? Because that's what I'm always wondering too. And this is why I really appreciate that you gave so much credit to YouTube Secrets, because if this book was written and you read it and was entertained, but it never helped you, like that, like is a fail on our part. We want actual practical tips for you guys so that you can actually have results. What were some of the best takeaways you've heard in the last few years that worked the best for you?
I used to get up every morning, and I got to start doing it again, but I used to get up every morning, get on the treadmill. And that's where I discovered the first conference that I went to. And it was great because, like I said, you get to hear Sean talk about how he did his first video and how he look, I found stuff that I could help tell people about a great gift and made that video. And, then a few months later, I'm making $200 a month on that video. And it's like, wow. And to hear people talk and tell their stories to me is always big. Loria Petrucci was at the same conference. Yep. And she's talking about video and how she does it and how she goes live. Amy Landino was amazing. Daryl Eves, I got so much from him that just, and it was all YouTube. And he tells you his story about how he does YouTube and the thought process behind it. It's, he's got his, this is my formula. You and Sean have your formula. Here's the like 13 chapters that, these are the things you need to do. The other cool one at that first conference that really touched me was a guy named Pete Vargas, Advance Your Reach. And I don't know if you know Pete, but Pete teaches people to speak.
Yes.
And the reason that I went to his is Julie and I had sat through, Dave Ramsey's course, Financial Peace University. And literally I'm watching Dave Ramsey speak, and we're at our church, and it's Tuesday night, and we're watching it. And I lean over to Julie and I said, I can do that. She said, you can do what? Teach financial peace? I said, no. But I said, Julie, he's on stage. He's telling stories about his life. I said, I can do that. And she just looks at me and nods like, yeah, sure you can. And remember, I'm not a speaker at the time. I'm a plumber. And when I sat in Pete Vargas's class, and Pete Vargas comes on stage and he starts telling you his story. And again, I'm on the front row. He had a job offer in Dallas, Texas or Hereford, Texas. He takes Hereford, Texas because it's a youth minister at a church. And I'm listening to him, and man, he's from Texas. Man, we're connected. He had a hard life growing up. We're connected. And I'm sitting here on the front row, and I thought, I am not going to let this guy make me cry. And I'm sitting here like, okay, I'm just not doing it. And it was funny because, and I guess this is one thing, because one of the last speakers that really, and there were two, Casey Neistat and Peter McKinnon. And Peter gets up here and he talks, and he's a keynote, so he talks for an hour and a half. And he gets towards the end and he says, so people have been asking me what I'm going to speak about. He says, now what I want you to know is I just did. I sat here and told you my stories. And literally, I got chills, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy is phenomenal. Casey Neistat was the same way. If you can learn to tell people your stories, they're going to stay with you. And the business, and it does not matter to me what business you're in, you've got stories that most of us don't know. Most of us have never heard. Most of us have never even thought of. And if you can find a way to tell your story that touches people, that makes them think, man, I don't want that to happen to me, or I don't want that to happen to my kids, or whatever it is. If you can learn to make videos and look at the camera and talk to you, Sherry, I saw your comment. If you can talk to people and make them think, oh my God, he's talking to me. They're going to be with you forever. And if you keep telling stories, they're going to keep coming back to listen. And that's about it.
And of course, imagine you're telling stories to your best friend, which everybody does, right? Like when we have an interesting story about how you started your day or somebody you ran into earlier, it's easy to do when it's your best friend. And if that comes out onto video in the context of whatever your niche or your genre for your channel is, magic. And it has nothing to do with the thumbnails, nothing to do with the titles. Obviously, the video is the story or stories. And I would even say, like, even reaction videos. I haven't seen all of them, but there's little micro stories you can tell, right? That'll make it interesting. Like, stories don't have to be keynote, hour-long, like a book-like presentations. They can be literally 1 to 5 minute little, comedians are great at this. Comedians tell tons of stories, really short ones. Now we're going to get into Q&A, Roger, because I've got some questions. I know the viewers have questions. So if you guys want those questions to be asked, make sure you put them in the chat area right now. Hit that like button if you guys are getting value. And remember, the replays of the questions are only available for people that are part of the members club. So make sure you join. Those are exclusive to you. But if you're here live, welcome. This is the VI show. We're going to get into it. And I actually want to give some shout out to people watching. But one of the things I want to end with, Roger, is your last thoughts about YouTube, about your channel, about your journey, and how hard it was, the recent success, and what you want to leave with the audience. But before we get into that, I just want to give shout outs. West Coast Digital, thank you so much for the super chat. We've got some members, the We families here, the Journey to Wellness. Of course, we've got some regular people. We've got Rasmin's Message for Spirit, Mike's Tech. Always appreciate everybody, part of the influencer community here on Video Influencers. But Roger, tell us, what are the last thoughts you want to leave with this audience? Being a plumber, owning a plumbing business, not knowing anything about YouTube. I mean, obviously, you just thought it was a library for your videos. And then you run into this guy named Daryl E. He's a pretty epic person to run into, right? Who changes everything. And 3 years later, to have this crazy amount of views, all this business locally, as well as, I know, a lot of attention globally from brands, from businesses that want to work with you, and just to have a YouTube channel that's going to probably hit 200,000 subscribers here soon, literally millions upon millions of views. What do you want to leave with somebody watching that is at the beginning, that just left the conference, right? This is their conference, and they're about to start their first day of YouTube?
The very first thing I'd say, and it's funny because Jill and I were talking about, every time I think of a quote that I'm like, man, I wish somebody would have told me this, I write it down. But one of them I thought of was, she who executes wins. The person who implements and executes is going to win every time. And to me, that's huge. And luckily for me, when I was at that first conference, my wife called. My phone was blowing up in a session. And when I stepped out in the hallway, I called her back. I said, what's going on? She said, Roger, look, have fun, but we're probably not going to be in business when you get home. The phones have stopped. We don't know what the marketing company's doing, but the phones are not ringing. And I said, look, number one, I'm at a conference. I need to think about what I'm here to learn, social media. But number two, it's Wednesday. Call people that owe us money. We're going to make it. Somehow, some way, we're going to make it. So I knew when I was at that conference, I have to learn. But then when I walk out, I have to implement. And a month later, we started releasing 3 videos a week. And we still do it. And the big thing about it is I'm a plumber. I'm still a plumber. I do plumbing all the time. And that's what I was at the time, even more so. Don't let the fact, I talked to somebody earlier today, they were texting me about YouTube. They're like, yeah, but you've got cameras and you've got this and you got this. It all pays for itself. And if you'll start with what you have and tell your story, get your information out there and improve 1% every video, you can do this. And I promise you, the changes that this can make in your business and in your life and in your relationships and with your family, how better would your life be if you could increase your business and your revenue 5 or 10 times, because that's what YouTube can do for you if you get in and do it right.
And you've got the results to show it, right? The views, the subscribers, the additional business, and your phones are definitely ringing now, right? I'm sure your wife is very happy with you going to that conference and learning what you did. But ultimately, it was all the hustle. It was all the work. It was all those consistent uploads, 3 a week, right? No matter what they look like. Sometimes they were just you talking to a guy on a radio station. So you have to start somewhere. Inspiring. I will tell you, I'm actually trying to write another book here, and it's all about stories like yourself, Roger. I'd be honored to put you in that story just because I am inspired by what you've done. I've known you before this viral hit kind of season of your channel, and I already thought you were successful then because I understood as an entrepreneur, it's the opportunities of revenue outside of YouTube that's really important and way better. But now I'm sure, like the revenue is kicking now on YouTube. So congratulations. You guys should definitely check out Roger's channel. We've got all the links down below. And Roger, any last thoughts? Do you want to tell people a little bit about your channel? What's interesting is obviously you cover plumbing topics, but anybody can be entertained, I'm sure, by some of these reaction videos. So this is your opportunity to share with them a little bit more about yourself, what you're doing, and where they can find you.
Here's the neat thing about YouTube. I told you that people find information there. Well, I found a guy named Ruan Marino, and I don't know if you know him. He's a YouTuber, but he's a marketing guy. And I found him on YouTube, and it's like, okay, this is crazy that people can find people to do business with on YouTube. But then I thought, wait, that's how people find me every day. My YouTube channel is literally, it started off to drive people to the plumbing company. Then it became just, let me build my brand as the expert plumber. And then it was, okay, wait, this is about Roger Wakefield because we're building a brand to teach people about plumbing. And look, if you want to learn about anything at all about plumbing, if you have questions about it, it's a great place to go learn. But also, if you ever run into a young woman or a young man who's like, look, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I've got people that send me messages all the time saying, look, I love that I found your channel. I'm in college and I hate it. I want to get into the trades. So I talk about plumbing, but to be honest, it's a lot of it is all about life. And I go live every Monday from 3 o'clock Central Standard Time to 5:30, and we answer people's questions.
That's awesome. I've actually seen your lives too, so they're on point.
Well, Benji, look, this has been such an honor, and this has been wonderful. I appreciate the opportunity. I tracked you down in LA last time I was there just to come tell you thank you for all the information you share. I get to talk to Sean quite often, so he knows how I feel. But I just want to, again, thank you for all y'all do for the community.
Yeah, appreciate you too, and appreciate those words. You guys, if you want to see all of our interviews, click or tap the screen right here. If you guys want to see more about how to get more views on YouTube, click or tap the screen right here. As always, we're helping build your influence, income, impact with online videos.